Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and you are welcome to the Shabbat of this morning. We glorify the name of the Lord, our God, the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for the opportunity He has given unto us to see and to behold this wonderful, as I said, every Shabbat, this great day in the land of the living. Shiny, sunny, is beautiful. So we exalt His name for all the goodness that He has done, that He's doing, and is going to do in our life. All right. This morning, I'm going to take it slow, so that we can all understand what we are going to talk about. I'm trying to take a speech lesson, that everybody can go along, and I can carry everybody along with my speeches this morning. Okay, right. The parashot of this morning is known as Matot and Masai, or Masai. Okay, Matot and Masai is a double parashat this morning. The parashot of this morning is known as Matot, and Matot actually in Hebrew is called Hamatot. Hamatot meaning the tribes. The tribes. That is the meaning of Hamatot. So Matot, which means the tribes. The 12 tribes. 10 plus 2. The 12 tribes. Why Masai is meaning journeys. The journeys, all since they left Egypt. So Moshe was telling them, was repeating everything that happened on the journeys. When they left Egypt, when they camped at Mount Sinai, when they went again from Mount Sinai, when they went through the wilderness, all the 40 years, Moshe was recanting it onto the children of Israel, telling them, this is what God did, this is what God did, this is how God conquered for you, this is how God delivered you, this is how God saved you. So that is the meaning of Masai. Masai meaning the journeys. Or it can also be translated as, you can also say your journey or my journey. You can also use Masai as your journey or my journey. Remember that the Torah talks about two journeys. The Torah talks about what? Two journeys. And these journeys are, one, the physical journey, and the second one is the spiritual journey. Remember that our lives, right, individually and collectively, is a journey. We were born one day, and we grow up, right? We begin to crawl. After crawling, we stand up and we walk. After walking, we go to what do you call it? Kindergarten, daycare, right? From daycare to primary school to high school, from high school to secondary school, from secondary school to where? To the college or to Sujed, then to college, to university. We get employed, we get married, we have our babies, our children, we grow old, and right? And we return back to our Creator. See, it's a journey. It is a journey. So, and this is a journey, the physical journey on earth. But remember, the most important of this journey is the spiritual one. Because know that this flesh is from the earth and it goes down here. You are not taking it anywhere. It will decompose. This one is a maggot. It got decomposed. It's a manure. It replenishes the earth. It's a circle of life. But the soul that embedded the spirit, which is the energy, will return back to its creator who created it. So what are we going to say? What are we going to tell God in the day that He comes and inquires of us and He asks us, what did you do with your life? What is your journey? Explain to me your journey on the planet Earth. Tell me, what is your journey? So this is what we are going to discuss about this morning. And just to quickly say that I subtitle the parashot, the oath. The oath. What is an oath? The oath, that is, your word is you. Your words are you. What you speak out is you, is your being. Because the Torah said, remember the Torah says that as a man think, a man speak. As a man think, as a woman think, as a boy think, as a girl think, as a baby think, they speak. You are, your thought is you. Because when you speak, and you are speaking out your own being, you are speaking out about from the bottom of your heart. Okay? So your thought, your speech is you. So God is talking about an oath here. And when you make an oath, you cannot break it. You shall do exactly everything that comes out of your mouth. If it's a man. If a man make an oath, if a man promise, if a man give his word, that man shall do exactly what comes out of his mouth. Why is God saying so? Why is God telling us about an oath here? Remember, in those days, 1,500 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, the word of a man is the most important at that time, not now. You see, not now. At that time, when a man said, I'm going to do this for you, he will never go back. He's ready to sacrifice his own life for you, because his word is his integrity. His word is his honor, right? His word to him means himself. Not, you see, in our culture, in our tradition, even till now, right? If I invite you into my house, I said, Blankita, I'm inviting you in my house, right? And you come, as soon as I open my door, right? And you enter in, as soon as I open my door and you enter in, you are under my protection. From that time on, until you leave, you are under my protection. I have to do everything possible to protect you from any harm. If anybody want to do any bad things to you, I'm ready to sacrifice my life for you, because I am the one that invites you in my home. You are inside my house, and you are under my protection. And because I don't want my name to be negative, I mean back then in those days, not now. Now a man speak one thing. What it means is the opposite of what he's saying. They come like our politicians, right? Like oh, come vote for me, la 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 la. They give you all the promises. They promise you the heavens and earth. As soon as you put them in power and they sit down upon that seat, that is the end. They do the opposite of what they said. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Look at what is happening. I just want to give a quick example, right? Before I start, look at the case of the coronavirus that started, right? 2019. Oh, they said there will be no differences between people that vaccinate and those that did not vaccinate. We cannot have a second-class citizen. Everybody it is by choice. It is if you want, right? We're not going to force it on nobody. But what is happening in 2021? They say everybody must take it. They change. You see, they always change. That is who they are, because they just want to tell you what you want to hear. Oh, vote for me. I'm going to make the road an express road. Vote for me. I'm going to give you water. I'm going to give you electricity 24 hours. As soon as you vote them in, they take all the money and put it in their pocket. The road is going to be like that forever and forever. They will never give you a good quality water. They will not even give you electricity. So this is what I am saying. Most of this thing happens in the developing world, and it's also happened here too. Because most of our leaders, they promise us one thing, they do exactly the opposite of what they say. So God is telling us, when you speak, when you give a promise, when you give an oath, you shall stand by your word. You shall not deviate from your word. But if it is a woman, and if the woman is still living under her father can renounce that oath and say, no, I don't want that for you. And the Torah said God will forgive her. In the day the father heard about it, not after he heard about it, keep his mouth shut, then he didn't say anything later and say, no. In the very moment the father heard about it, the father can renounce it and God will forgive her. If it is a girl that is living in her father's house, the same thing. If it's a woman that has an husband, when the husband hear it and the husband said no, God will forgive her too. But a widow and a divorcee, it will stand. The vow that they make will stand. But if the widow remarry, or if the divorcee remarry and they have an husband, right, their husband can say no and God will forgive them too. So This is what what is God trying to direct and teach us here. God is trying to tell us that our word, our promise, our oath, our vow is very, very important. Parashat Matot, or as the word is spelled, Hamatot, relate three main subjects: the law concerning the pledging and anointing of vows, the war against the Midianites, their defeat, and the division of the spoils of war among the children of Israel. Thirdly, the request of the tribe of Reuben and Gad and half tribe of Manasseh to be apportioned the lands conquered on the east bank of the Jordan River in return for their assisting in the conquest of the lands of Israel from the west bank of the Jordan River. I wanted to make it very, very clear here, right, that the war against the Midianites. Remember that the Midianites conspired against the children of Israel to make them to fall, to make them to sin against God. In the case of Balaam and Balak, right? So here, God is sending the children of Israel to go and wage war against them, to do what? To wipe them out, to kill them all, for their conspiracy against Israel. And what I just want to bring out here, which is very, very important, here we saw the death of Balaam, the sorcerer. Balaam, the evil Balaam that give them the idea, that conspire to make Israel fall. So that it will not be said, oh, you know what? Oh, we didn't know the end of Balaam. We didn't know how Balaam ended. But here the Torah speaks very, very clearly that Balaam was killed by the sword. Remember that Balaam in 3 weeks parashat, he said he told his what? His ass, you know, the donkey, the female donkey, right? The female donkey called ass. Okay? He told his female donkey, when the female donkey was speaking with him, he said, if I have a sword in my hand, I will have what? I will have kill you, slay you. So he has already prophesied his own death, how he's going to die. So the Torah says that Balaam was killed by the sword, by the children of Israel. So this is extremely very, very important. I just want to point this out, that don't let anybody come to tell you that Balaam just went somewhere, or Balaam just disappeared, or that we don't know the end of Balaam. No, Balaam was actually killed in the battle of the Midianites. Okay? Alright, the combination of these two sections of the Torah constitute the question raised by all the commentators over the ages as to whether there is a connection between these two parashot, or is it just a matter of calendar conveniences that unites them in one Torah reading in this morning Shabbat. I have always believed that there is no random occurrences or events as they appear in the text in the Torah and in other holy writings. The Torah is not a random work, and this section of the book are also not random, just not randomly put together. There must be a connection or a connecting bond, a common denominator that unites these two apparently disparate and different sections of the Torah. I feel that it is in the relationship between the Hebrew people and the land of Israel that is the connection that links Matot and Masai. In this reading of Matot, we are told of the request of the tribe of Reuben and Gad to settle themselves and their families, their flocks, their wealth, and their talent outside the strict border of the land of Israel. They point out to Moses all the advantages that they will enjoy if he allowed them to take their share in the land of Israel east of the Jordan River. And we know what became the end of these two tribes. tribe, the tribe of Reuben and Gad. You see, after the conquering of the land, right? After the Israelites defeated the Midianites and they took control of all the spoil and all the land, the tribe of Reuben and the tribe of Manasseh and the tribe of Reuben and the tribe of Gad plus half tribe of Manasseh came to who? To Moshe. They said, Moses, the man of God, please, this land is good. This land is all green. You know, it is good for what? For your servants. Because your servant has a lot of flocks, a lot of sheep, a lot of goat, a lot of ram, a lot of cow, you know, a lot of chicken. You know, so this land will be good for us so that we can be able to feed our cows, our animals, our everything that we own. You know, please give us this land. According to the Torah, Moses resisted. Moses doesn't want to give them because that is not the land that God is talking about. God wanted them to completely cross over to the other side of the Jordan, to the east, that they should stay there. To the west, so that they should stay there on the other side of the Jordan River, not to remain on the east part, so that all of them will be in one land, so that the river will not be a dividing factor among them, so that they can be able to stay together as one and they will be able to do what? To defend themselves. But they shout and cry before Moshe, and Moshe said, okay. Remember the word. He said, as a man wish. So, you know, when you wish things too much, be careful what you wish for. For God, you might get it. You know, they wish for the land. Moses said, okay. I give it to you. He gave it to them, and we saw the consequence of that. These two tribes, the tribe of Reuben and Gad, were the first tribe to be enslaved. They were the first two tribes to be taken away in exile because they were on the other side of the river. There was no protection for them. They were separated by the river. So instead of them to be together, united and be one, they said, no. I want to stay on the other side because the land is green. Remember in the Torah, who can tell me again where we read that somebody said, oh, this land is good, this land is green. And its consequence was bad. That was who? That was Lot. Remember that Lot said, oh, the land of Sodom and Gomorrah is good, it's nice, it's wonderful. Let me take it. Because Abraham told him, choose. If you go west, I go east. If you go east, I go west. Choose one. Then the Torah said, and behold, he raised up his eyes and see that the side of the Sodom is good, it's green, it's nice for his what? For his flocks. He said, oh, my uncle, I'm taking here. And he left, and the consequence was bad. So the same thing here. It is not everything that shines is gold. You might think that it's shiny. It's not everything that shines is gold. Neither is every apple is a good apple. Outside might be nice, inside might be rotten. You know, so you cannot say, oh, because it's green, it's nice, it's wonderful. Oh, it's good for my animal. I want the God that brought you from Egypt is able to provide for you a green land to feed your animals. That is the issue here. The trust in God. That we should hope and put our complete trust, 100% trust in our Creator. The Lord that has guided your animal for 40 years in the wilderness. Do you think He will not allow your animals to die in the desert? No. God has been providing for you, for your animals, for everything that is surrounding you. God has been giving you everything. Don't you think that God is able to do that also on the other side of the Jordan River for you? You don't have to stay on this side because it's green. It is not everything that shines is gold. It is not every good eye. It is not every apple that you look that you think it is good. The inside might be rotten. So this is what happened to these two tribes. They were the first tribes, the two tribes, to be taken away in slavery because they were on the other side. They were alone. See, this is why it is not good for you to be able to what? To be alone. Even though God understand that. God said it is not good for a man to be alone. So I will create him a woman. God can say, okay, you know what? I want a man to be alone. And the man can reproduce by himself. But God said, no, this is not good for a man. A man needs a woman. A woman needs a man. You see, it is in unity. For both of them are what? Are one. So when all of you are together, you are one. You see, if you are not together, we are easily can be conquered. But once we are together, strong, bound, nothing can defeat us. Nothing can conquer us because we are together. All right. The portion of Matot begins with the law governing commitment and pledges. In Torah law, words are not taken lightly. And when one makes an oath, the implications are exacting. The portion begins. Moshe spoke to the Rosh Hamatot, the heads of the tribes, saying, "This is the thing that Adonai has commanded. If a man take a vow to Adonai or swears to enact a prohibition upon himself, he shall not desecrate his word. Whatever he said, he shall do." Numbers 30, verse 2 to 3. The portion continues to discuss vows that one places upon himself, as well as vows that are between husbands and wives, and fathers and daughters. The Torah continues to detail the complex law of both the obligation and revocation of vows. What is strikingly different in this portion is the way it was transmitted. Normally, the Torah does not talk about the teaching of the law to the heads of the tribes. But in Parashat Kitzisa, the Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu will first teach Aaron, then Aaron will teach his children, then the elders, and then all of Israel. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 34, verse 31 and 32. That was the normal procedure. Okay? In the normal procedure, the Torah says, and God speaks to who? To Moses. Right? That is always what the Torah says. And God speaks to Moses. And God speaks to Moses. And God speaks to Moses. In some rare case, the Torah says, and God speaks to Moses and Aaron. Or God speaks to Moses and Eliezer. So it's a very rare case. But in 99% of the case, we hear God speaks to Moses. And Moses will now do what? Moses will now go and explain what God taught him to Aaron, the Kohen Gadol. Right? The Kohen Gadol will now go and explain to his children, because after he goes, his children will be the next Kohen Gadol. So they must have the memory. They must have everything that God is teaching them. They must put everything right here. Right? Okay. And after that, with the Kohen Gadol now will now take all those things and go and teach it to what? To the elders. We have the 70 elders, we have the court that Moshe instituted. And after that, they will now go, the elders now will now go and teach the entire children of Israel. That was the process. But in this parasha of this morning, that wasn't the process. It was changed. So God said, and God told Moses to speak to the elders of the people. He bypassed the Kohen Gadol. He bypassed the children of the Kohen Gadol directly to the elder, to the elders of the tribes, to the tribes of Israel, to their leaders. Go and speak to them this word. Why did God say that? Why did God bypass all those things and say directly, go and speak to the elders or to the leaders? Because this particular parasha, this particular law that God is giving is directly concerning the leaders. It doesn't have anything much to do with the Kohen Gadol. It doesn't have much to do with his children, but directly with the leaders. Because when a leader gives his word, you must stand by your word. Because that is what makes you different. When the people of the world speak one thing, they speak with their right lips, their left lips is speaking another thing. In the same mouth, the tongue is divided like the tongue of a serpent. This one goes here, the other one goes here. Whatever they say here interpret it as if they are going here. Because they always lie. Always lie. They will never tell you the truth. They can never stand upon their word. And God said, you shall not be like the people of the land that you are coming into to possess. Maybe that is how those people, that is how they deal with their own business. They lie too much. People think that they can lie and lie and lie and acquire wealth, acquire riches, acquire a lot of abundance by lying, by lashara, by speaking gale. No. All those things that you think that you are going to gather, you are going to lose it. Because every day for the thief, one day for the owner. Every day is for the thief. One day is for the owner. As like my people always say, the wind will blow. The wind will blow, and we will see the bottom of the chicken or the bottom of the hen. When the wind blow, you see all the secrets. This is what we are saying. That every day you lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. One day the truth will come out. A lie might have 1,000 miles, 1,000 years. In a second, in a nanosecond, the truth will catch up. That is it. So why must you lie? Or why must you say one thing, but actually you mean another thing? Remember, also in this case, in the case of the city of Jericho, we are going to discuss about that too. When the spies went, right, to do what? To conquer the city. What did the spies discuss with the woman, the harlot woman? They said, we are going to make a vow. And they make a vow. And they said, but for us to be sure, tie this red rope or this curtain, put it on the window. That anybody, if anything ever happened to your family, if anything ever touches your family, the blood will be upon our head. You see how strong word is that? But make sure that you gather all your families in your own home, that nothing ever will ever happens to you. And the spies, and they went and discussed with Moshe. And Moshe said, exactly, as you said, so shall it be. They gave their word. If you did not leak our secret, they said. But if you leak our secret, we are free from the oath. We are free from the vow. We are free from the promise. But if you did not leak this oath, and you stand by it, then we also will stand by our own oath. Those are the leaders that God is talking about. God is saying that as a leader, as a rabbi, when I speak, I should stand by my word. I shouldn't speak one thing here, another thing comes out here. No. And we can see most of our rabbis that we know today. Everybody is pursuing after wealth, after wealth, after wealth, after wealth. Only about, how Mr. A, how will Mr. A contribute $1 million to the synagogue? How will Mr. B contribute 10 million to the synagogue? How will Mr. C contribute 20 billion into the synagogue? That is it. Nothing more. But how about the Torah? How about the word of life? How about the word of God? I'm not saying that contribution is not good. No, it's good. Yes, that is how God blesses you every time. That's how God increases you. That's how God protects you. That's how God guides you. But that is not the primary thing. The primary thing is the Torah, is the life. Are you teaching? Are we teaching the truth of the Torah? This month, as I said, is Rosh Kodesh Av. This month is the month when Aaron, the Kohen Gadol, passed away. And in this month is the month is the month that will remember the destruction of the temple. This month started negatively, but it ends up in a positive way. Because in this month, we have what? We have most of the high holidays. You know, the Yom Teruah is coming, and also the holiest holiday, Yom Kippur, is also coming in this month. So the month starts negatively, but it ends up in a positive way. And also the Kohen Gadol is, as we know, Aaron, Aaron the Kohen Gadol, who brings peace. The shalom of Aaron is what each and every one of us asks for. Is what every one of us seek for. The greatest thing that we can ever seek in our life, in our today's life, is what? Is shalom. Because we can see all the trouble that is in the world, all the turmoil, all the up and down, all the problems, all the war, all the destructions. of life and properties, of things. How the earth itself or herself, she's getting angry because of our actions, because of what man is doing on the planet. The planet herself, she's getting mad because of what we are doing. When we are turning the truth upside down, when we say one thing but we are going to do another thing. So that is why we seek the shalom of the Most High. That's why we seek the shalom of Aaron the Kohen Gadol, that God should give unto us shalom of Aaron the Kohen Gadol, because there is nothing more important in life than peace. Nothing. With a peace of mind, you can attain any level. The sky is not your limit. People say the sky is the limit. I don't believe in that. With shalom, you are limitless with peace, because you can sit down and plan your life perfectly well. You can calm down and plan the next 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 years, because you have peace. Because there is peace. But if there is no peace, how can you plan? How can you want to go out and make wealth? How can you want to go out and walk when there is no peace? So that is why we seek the peace of the Lord. So it is very, very important in this month that we should make what? Tzedakah. Okay? It is commanded by our sages. It is very, very commanded, and I recommend to everybody in the month of Av, especially this today, is Shabbat, and it's also the beginning of the month. So we have double portion, we have double shalom, we have double peace. So therefore, I want us to make tzedakah, give gift to the poor. That is what a tzedakah is. Give things to the poor, donate to the poor, because this month is a month that God is going to judge us, right? It's coming. The judgment is coming. The Messiah is going to come. The Messiah is coming. We can feel the presence of his coming. Because, like I can let me just quickly give us an example. In physics, right? When an object is going on a high speed, those if the object is coming, mean that I'm here, I can begin to feel, because as it comes in a high speed, is pushing forward what matters, either air or heat or anything else. I can feel, oh, something's coming. The same thing here. We can feel the coming of the Messiah because of all the things that is happening in our world. Where somebody, I sent it to Blanquita too, and I guess I also sent it to Enan too, and to other members. Where in the world that we live in, somebody is saying that they are looking for the right of a man to have an animal as a partner. That's what God is saying. Now, they don't want to have a man as a partner. Now, they don't want to have a woman as a partner. They want to have an animal as a partner. A man living together with an animal. Can you imagine that? Where are you going? Where are we going? And they say, this is human right. Where is the right going? This is the devil's right, not the man, the right of a man. This is not human right. This is the right of the devil. And everybody's praising it, they're praising it, they want it. So we can see that the Messiah is at the door. And our work, individually and collectively, is to do what? To do justice, to do what is right, and to follow the Torah. When the Torah says one thing, and if any other book says another thing, do not follow another book. Follow the Torah. If the Torah says stand, and the other book says sit, forget about it, you stand. If the Torah says sit, and the other book says stand, forget about any other books, you sit. The Torah is a foundation. The written Torah, even though the oral Torah, if the oral Torah say anything opposite to what the Torah is saying, forget about the oral Torah, forget about it. Do exactly what the written Torah said. That is it. That is the fundament, the foundation of our faith, of everything that we know. So, my people, this morning we can see that the world is going to an end. It's going to end. There is no doubt about that. We can feel it. We can see all the trouble, financial crisis everywhere. those that have hope in God shall have shalom. Those that have hope in God shall have peace. Those that put their trust in God will never be ashamed. Those that rest, in God shall have a smooth drive. Those that relax in the Torah will have a smooth drive all the way unto the end. So this is my request for you, for us, individually and collectively, that we should stand by our word. When we speak, let's do it. Don't let us say one thing and we do the opposite. That is not what the Torah is saying. The Torah wants us to do exactly the words that comes out of our mouth, because your word is you. Your words that comes out are you. That is not that about that. You speak according to how you think. Parasha Matot, Parasha Masai, Parashot Matot and Masai. May God bless you. May we have peace. May the shalom of the living God rest upon us individually and collectively. Please don't forget, do tzedakah. Go outside there, look for the poor, give to the poor, and you will never, never regret it. And I also said that the fastest way for your prayers to be answered, the fastest and the most easiest way for your prayers to be answered is for you to pray for your brothers. It's for you to pray for another person. It's for you to pray for that man, that woman, that boy, that girl that you don't even know. Pray for them. And you will see immediately your own prayer will be answered. May God bless you, and may God's His favor and His blessing upon you. Shabbat Shalom.